Well, thank you, Charlie and Miss Teen Crypto there. Some great conversations that we got to listen into. Next up, here to share insights on the future of Litecoin development is Litecoin's very own shadowy supercoder, David Burkett.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. David Burkett. I'm a developer for Litecoin. I've been working on Litecoin for a few years now. I'm just going to give an update on some of the big features we've been working on, both on the protocol and there's some community development and stuff going on too. So, first and foremost, as Charlie and Miss Team Crypto talked about, Litecoin is all about being money. So it tries to be fast. At the time it was created at 2.5-minute block times were much faster than what we had. But it's still plenty fast for your everyday transactions. A couple minutes of waiting for it, especially for online transactions, is nothing. A lot of us use Bitcoin from time to time, and we have to wait the 10 or 20 or 30 minutes for a first confirmation. It can be very frustrating. So it's a lot better with the shorter block time. There's also very low fees. We have 4 times as many blocks as Bitcoin, so we can have 4 times as many transactions. As long as we have this extra block space, then there should be less competition for it, and the fees should generally be lower. Right now, they're very low. You don't have to wait till 2 a.m. to send your 3 Satoshi transaction. It's pretty much a low fee all the time. We were also the first major coin to implement SegWit and Lightning networks. So if those blocks do start to fill up, we have those to fall back on. We'll get instant transactions with those, and we can scale very well there. And reliable. They just talked about the 10-year anniversary, and during all that time, there's never been any downtime at all, which is quite impressive. It's just it's always there. It's always reliable, and you need that for money, because if you think of like the holiday seasons and you go to a major department store and suddenly Visa didn't work, it'd be chaotic for many people. So you need to be money. You really need to be reliable all the time. You've got to just be there when it's needed. And so that's really affected how Litecoin has developed. They've taken a very conservative approach. We pay very close attention to what Bitcoin does. We'll adopt their features after they've proven, or if it's something like SegWit in the past, we'll actually adopt before them. But we're very, very cautious about what we include at the core layer, because we need to make sure that we're always going. We're not Ethereum trying to be the world computer or anything like that. We're not trying to do cutting edge everything while risking the most important application, which is money. So that's really influenced how developers look at Litecoin. It's got all these great properties. There's other properties of money too. It's divisible. It's easy to transport. But there's one that we're really missing, which, as mentioned before, was fungibility. Fungibility, this is from Wikipedia, so you can trust it. In economics, fungibility is the property of a good or commodity whose individual units are essentially interchangeable, and each of whose parts is indistinguishable from another part. So in other words, one Litecoin is one Litecoin is one Litecoin. You don't want to go to a store and have them and have different Litecoins valued at different amounts and try to figure out based off the price, like how many of these Litecoins you need. You want to be able to just look and see, oh, this is 10 Litecoins. Any 10 Litecoins will do. But if you have some coins that have a history attached, like if you think about how a blockchain works, they have each coin has a history. You can trace it back and see past transactions it was involved with. Let's say one of those past transactions was blacklisted by some companies with maybe involved with some kind of illegal trade, or even some of those coins were involved with some other coins that were involved in some kind of illegal activity. Depending how closely that past activity was, the odds of it being blacklisted places may increase or decrease. So what you really would end up with there is this kind of this uneven system of some coins being weighed more than others, and you'd have like some come at a premium. Like if you wanted brand new fresh coins from a miner, you would end up paying more than one Litecoin for each one of those Litecoins. And when you have a system like that, it's just a barter economy. You don't have a base monetary unit. It's just you're always bartering for goods, and that kind of defeats the whole purpose of being money. So you want to make sure that you can just price things in Litecoin, and every Litecoin is accepted for it. So in order to do that, we need to make sure every Litecoin is indistinguishable from the other. You don't want to be able to see that history at all. And right now for Bitcoin and Litecoin, you definitely can. It doesn't have that fungibility. So our focus for the past few years has been providing this final property of money. Whoa, hold on, sorry. All right. The way we're doing this is there's something called Mimblewimble. It's a protocol for providing confidential transactions, and confidential transactions just means the amounts are hidden. There's if you look at a blockchain, if you look at a block explorer today, you can see amounts. You can see in certain cases you may be able to see your coworkers, how much they make, what their salary is, if you're able to track those transactions down on a blockchain. So that's not a very good property of money as it is. You don't really want other people seeing how much you make or how much you spend on things. But also, if you think about it, if you're looking at a block explorer, you can, based on the amounts, you can often tell whether something is change or not. So you can see the direction the coins go, because every transaction has an amount you send to someone else, but then it can also receive some change back. And so by having the amounts there, it makes it easier to figure out which one is change and which one isn't, which is all very useful information if you're trying to track down the history of a coin. And that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to avoid others being able to trace a coin, because we don't want a history really attached to a coin. So Mimblewimble provides these confidential transactions which hides the amounts, but they also do something called non-interactive coin joins. So for every transaction today, you have some coins you're spending and some coins you're creating as part of that spend. So if you spend 10 coins, then you can send 9 to someone else and 1 back to yourself as change. And it's easy to follow the money that way. But by doing non-interactive coin joins, what it really means is each block, it takes all of the transactions from the block, and it takes all the coins being spent, and it takes all the coins being created, and it just combines them all together into one big transaction. And when it does that, you lose the individual history of each coin. It makes it a lot harder to track who spent which coins and where they went. And that's the property that really gives us the fungibility from Mimblewimble. And it does this using very conservative crypto. It's not crazy cutting edge stuff like Zcash or other coins are doing. It's the same security properties as Bitcoin. So it's very safe, but we get all these great advantages from it. And there's also one really cool aspect of how Mimblewimble works is that you actually can delete old data while maintaining the same security properties. So it actually scales better. Typically with confidential transactions, there are 3 or 4 or sometimes a lot more times the size of a normal transaction, but with Mimblewimble, it's actually smaller over time because less data is needed to be stored. So you have faster sync times, and that improves decentralization, among other things. So yeah, we wanted to use this Mimblewimble, but then for a while there, it looked like it might not be possible. You can see Charlie back in January 2019 says it changes the blockchain too much, it has to be a hard fork. But we found later there's this thing called an extension block, which it's a pretty clever mechanism, very powerful, but it's allows you to add like a second block to every block that can have its own set of transaction rules. You can the transactions don't have to look anything alike, anything like the normal transactions do, and each block will just have like its own copy, its own separate extension block, but that follows a separate rules. And you can send coins back and forth between those two blocks. You can see in the image here how there's this arrow to a second block for each one of those blocks. You have your normal chain, and they also have this additional data that could follow any odd set of rules you want. You could even do really crazy things like decrease or increase supply and other stuff, but we're not doing anything shady like that. We're just we're supporting Mimblewimble on this side, so that all you will need to do for erasing the history of your coin, or for at least obscuring the history of your coin and making it so that everyone looks similar to others, is you can just send it to this special address, and it moves it to like that other block in the chain, where you can follow the Mimblewimble rules. And this only requires a soft fork. There's no need to have every node out there upgrade immediately. You can nodes can upgrade slowly over time, just like SegWit was the soft fork. This is not going to be, it's not going to result in a chain split or anything like that. So we decided we would implement Mimblewimble via an extension block, and that's where we get the name MWeb. So the status of MWeb. We started developing in late 2019. It's a community-funded project. Every month I do a detailed monthly update. You can go out onto litecointalk.io. You can go read all the past updates. They're fairly detailed. I just submitted a new one yesterday. You could read it. But we've done some really cool things over top the normal Mimblewimble protocol. We've included non-interactive transactions. There was kind of a limitation with how Mimblewimble worked before, to where it was harder to transact with some people because both had to be online at the same times, unlike standard Litecoin where you just send to an address and they can receive it whenever. Well, we were able to get that. We were able to make some improvements on Mimblewimble to add that support back. And we also have these stealth addresses. So one way people de-anonymize themselves, or one way that you can learn about a transaction in the chain, is if someone sends coins to the same address. So if they have two different transactions they're involved with, and both end up sending coins to the same address, if you reuse an address, well, you know that address is owned by just one person. And so like a big source of privacy leaks for Bitcoin and